Welcome back everybody to the Canadian Circus. Today's video we're going to be looking at the Canadian Armed Forces once again being left out in the cold by our Liberal government. A Liberal judge has just thrown out their case. They had a case before the courts for damages due to the mandates that were forced upon them. So without further ado, let's get into this one.
Justin takes the center stage in this liberal masquerade. Cabinet ministers close behind while the master spins his lies. Welcome to the Canadian Circus.
All right, I know this is old, but this does set the primer for basically everything that goes forward with the lawsuit of the military veterans that are going through this lawsuit that was just thrown out by that judge. So here we go.
If they wanted to make their own healthcare decision,
the mandatory vaccination that's in place immediately for federal employees will look like. Proof of vaccination will be required by no later than the end of this month for all federal employees. Mid-November, enforcement measures will make sure that everyone is vaccinated. People who choose not to get vaccinated don't get on a plane or a train, don't get to work in the public service, don't get to go to movie theaters or gyms or restaurants and other non-essential services. That's how we keep people safe.
Justin Trudeau made it so you could literally lose your job. You couldn't get on an airplane. You couldn't get on a train. Members of our armed forces who had served their country with pride and honor were suddenly kicked out for wanting to make their own healthcare choices. And then what does Trudeau do? He goes on TV and says this.
And therefore, while not forcing anyone to get vaccinated, I chose to make sure that all the incentives were there.
Classic Trudeauing. If they wanted to make their own.
Classic narcissism. This guy is a clown. He's an utter fool, utter buffoon, and utter failure. What he's done is he's basically he's gaslighting everybody. He'll put all these mandates in there, forcing you to do what he wants you to do. And then he'll say and flip the script and say, I never told you to do that. What I did was I said you couldn't do all these things if you did it, but it's still your choice, right? So you chose to get fired. You chose to leave that job. You chose to not be able to feed your family. Classic gaslighting is what it is. That's all it is. Pure and simple gaslighting. So with that said, let's get into this article. All right, here's that article. I'll leave a link down below with this article. I'll just briefly go over this. The judge tosses vexatious Canadian Armed Forces vaccine mandate lawsuit over lack of material facts. More than 330 plaintiffs who were seeking $1.3 million in damages. These will now collectively pay the government $5,000 in court costs. So not only do they get their case thrown out, they now have to. It's nothing for these for 330 people to pay this, but it's insane. It's stupid. Like they have to pay $5,000 in court costs, but this is on top of other lawyers and everything too. So they had to get lawyers to fight these cases and everything. They had to pay for that, unless they got government appointed lawyers, which is a different thing. Okay, federal court judges tossed a lawsuit by now it says 330. So why didn't they just set that up in the up here? More than 300. Well, why not just say the number? You got the number. You know it. It's right here. I don't know. Canadian Armed Forces each seeking more than $1.3 million damages for having their charter rights allegedly violated by mandates. Yeah, okay. Now they'll collectively pay $5,000. Yeah. So the material facts or evidence. Okay, so that's the other thing that bothers me. Okay, ruling in favor of the government's motion to strike the case, associate judge, which is a Liberal judge, Catherine Coughlin, repeatedly discounted the plaintiffs' claims under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms because their pleadings were devoid of material facts or evidence. How many material facts or evidence do they have to say these things were safe and effective? How many people did they gaslight into thinking, well, you didn't suffer anything, you didn't suffer any injuries? How many times did they gaslight you and say that this thing didn't cause your injuries? It's insane. These people are insane. Coughlin said the pleadings presented in individual paragraphs that include details about the plaintiff, including vaccination status, are replete with vexatious language and bald assertions of bad faith. Normally, they don't give you what the people said. And I guarantee this isn't every single service member that said this either. A lot of them just didn't want to get it because they were afraid for their health. So like they're afraid of putting something in their body. They don't know what it is. They don't know, it hasn't been researched for long term. So they're rightfully afraid to take it because there's no long-term data of the effects, the negative effects. So for example, the various COVID-19 vaccines are labeled as an experimental gene therapy. Yeah, they may not be labeled that, but that's exactly what they are. And biologics, I don't know about that. I don't even know what they, biologically, without any basis for these statements established. Once again, they didn't have any basis for the statements they made about safe and effective. They had no basis, yet they spouted that out anyway. And they all, lockstep, each organization all said the same thing, safe and effective. Rachel Maddow said, you get this thing, you will not get it, and you will not be able to spread. They said non-stop lies all the time, lied. Yet here we go. They're saying that they don't have enough evidence. You didn't have enough evidence to say it's safe and effective. So that was the article for the Canadian Armed Forces having their case thrown out. So being left out in the cold once again. So let's say before I do anything, before I go any further, that we should honor and we should respect our military service people, because they do a great, they give a great debt to society by serving in the military and protecting our country. And Trudeau is always just tossing them out in the cold. He never respects them. And he only goes to them for photo ops, and that's all he ever does. And it's so disgusting. But yeah, with that said, I'm going to leave the two articles. There's two different articles down below. You want to check that out, get further into this. I'll leave that down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Cabinet ministers close behind while the master spins his lies. Welcome